there's something really magical when people gather to connect over plants. They connect with each other because of plants. And I think that that's a big part of why I love herbalism. Other than just like, I love being out in nature and that's its own thing. But connecting with other humans because of plants it's just so magical. Like the community and then people who get drawn to the community and to plants. I've never met anyone who isn't just an amazing human being and just full of this giving, delightful energy.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm joined by Kassaundra Lynn, and we're here in her herb shop in downtown Eugene, Oregon, and I'm super excited to get to know Kassaundra a little bit more. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your shop? It's very cute, and it's in my hometown of Eugene, which I love that Eugene has another herb shop. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the shop?
So the shop is comprised of, there's about 20 of us in here. It's rooted Remedies, but then there's about 20 other vendors, and they're all Oregon-based businesses, all plant-based products or artwork. So herbalists of all sorts come in and share the shelves. Yeah, it's a nice community place.
If I recall, you also kind of have like a library of sorts in here too.
I do, yes. So I've donated my own herbal books because I don't use them every day all the time, and books are very expensive. So I've decided to make an herbal library and let people check them out. And a lot of people have taken me up on the offer and end up actually buying the book themselves. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, our friend Kyle Denton at Tippecanoe Herbs in Milwaukee, he said he owns an herb shop as well, he and his wife, and he says it's really nice for him to just get to buy these herb books because he can't have this many books at home, so he just kind of collects them and has them at the shop. So it's a good excuse to have all these herbal books. Just kind of looking around, you know, we got our friends Ryan from Boho Boto, so some local herbalists. Our good friend Nick Moya with Oso Moya, so shout out Nick. Very good. Yeah, it's a cute shop. I'm kind of curious. I know you're originally from Portland. Can you kind of tell us about like your early beginnings? I know I read your bio on your website. It sounds like you kind of were always into plants. So can you kind of take us from your journey as a kid to becoming an herbalist, and then just evolution from there?
Yeah. Oh wow.
I asked the hard-hitting questions.
I know. Where do I even begin? So I grew up in Portland, and all of our family vacations were camping or out in the coast or the mountains or the desert. So always out in nature. Excuse me. And I also remember just loving being in either my mom's or my grandpa's garden and just being surrounded by plants and the bugs and having my own little magical worlds in there. I did not grow up with hippie parents or parents that used herbs intentionally in any way, but my grandma and my great-grandma, I don't know if they would consider themselves kitchen witches, but they were definitely kitchen witches and just made the most amazing foods, and that was the medicine that they brought to the family. So I really took that on, and then as I grew up, it wasn't really until I was 20 that I discovered lemon balm, like intentionally discovered lemon balm, and realized that it has so much to offer. And it's such a beautiful, lovely plant. And so I went to the library and found this cute little book, 100 Home Remedies, and then I just dove in. Like, didn't turn back, didn't look back, just dove into herbalism and did a lot of self-study and experimentation on myself and my very patient friends and family. And then a few years later, I decided to take the plunge and have official training, and looked at all the schools in Portland. There's so many to choose from, and they each offer something so unique and specific, so like a specific route to take in herbalism. And I really wanted to have my what one of my teachers, Paul Bergner, says dirt time in, but also work in a clinical sense, like taking it more, I guess, more serious, what I thought back then, more serious than making like the more metaphysical side in my head at the time, at least. And so I chose Vital Ways in Portland, which used to be, what was it? The School of Western.
It's coming back to me.
Oh, it's such a long name.
Yeah. Hence Chris changing into Vital Ways.
Hence Chris changing Vital Ways. Yeah. And it changed my whole trajectory of everything. So I actually went to school to be a preschool teacher.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I took Chris's course, and it changed my whole trajectory in my career.
So Chris's course, Christopher Smaka,
Yeah.
he was the first herbal apprenticeship that you took.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to chat more about that experience, but I'm curious, as far as Paul Bergner goes, did you study with him in person, or was it via like the tapes and CDs and stuff like that?
No, he was part of the school too.
Oh,
Yeah.
he taught at Vital Ways.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
him, Paul, or him, Chris, and Hannah were the main trio.
Oh, I had no idea Paul was like a regular faculty member there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he was a regular faculty, and then we had a bunch of regular guest teachers come in. and
Right.
work
Yeah, I
with
know.
us.
Like, I want to say Jim McDonald would come.
I missed his class.
Oh, you did? Okay.
One class I missed.
Oh, you were sick that day or something. Okay. Bummer.
I was. It is a bummer because
Yeah.
I heard amazing things about that class.
Yeah. Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jim's got tons of teaching online, so I'm
Yeah.
sure you've made up for it in the meantime.
Yeah.
But so Vital Ways, and I know so. I guess you would say you learned more of the clinical side and the practical side, but I know you also took an apprenticeship with Scott Cluse, which might be kind of deemed the more potentially the spiritual aspect or whatever. Was that you just trying to like get various angles at the herbalism game, or like what compelled you to take another herbalism apprenticeship?
Yeah, it was more me accepting that part of me and the more spiritual side, and realizing that it's all valid and all important.
Yes.
And all connected. So I really, really loved taking classes with him.
I love that. That's really kind of Herb Rally's mission, is
Yeah.
to show all of the different forms of herbalism, because well, you and I were talking pre-calls, like just when you think you kind of know something, or the more you learn, the more you kind of realize you don't actually know.
Yes.
And my mind has changed on so many topics, so many different times, and like, who am I to say this particular genre of herbalism isn't true? You know, I wouldn't consider myself in any aspect of herbalism per se, except maybe like listing herbalism events and stuff like that. But other than that, like, yeah, I love learning about the different cultures and different aspects of herbalism. So I give you kudos for like just knowing that about yourself, and you're like, I'm going to honor that spiritual side of myself too.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, especially growing up in society and kind of a family that was a little skeptical of herbalism.
Yeah.
And then to take it even further, the spiritual side of herbalism is like not taken seriously, and so I think that that's important too. So.
I wasn't going to ask this originally, but it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like, so it's first of all, it's cool that your parents were like into nature and taking you guys out camping and stuff, but they still think of herbalism as like this, I don't know, probably like woo-woo profession that you do. But at the same time, you're a business owner.
Yeah.
So I really want to like host a panel sometime on like balancing living this like herbal lifestyle and promoting this particular lifestyle. Oh, and by the way, we're also entrepreneurs and we have to like make it in this capitalist society. It just seems so so bizarre, and one of our most popular videos on our YouTube channel, actually, I just looked today, it's our most popular video on our YouTube channel, and it's David Hoffman talking about his herbal business advice, which is essentially, he just says, don't. Don't do it.
Yeah,
Don't participate in the game that is, business and all that. And of course, I want to like create a whole video on a response to it because it's very controversial.
Yeah.
A lot of the comments are like, well, who are you to, make money off of herbalism and then go and tell us that this isn't the right thing to do. So I'm just curious, you personally, I know this is a long-winded question, but you personally, how do you balance like, I'm promoting this herbalism lifestyle and I'm a business owner?
Yeah, wow. That's been a really hard thing to grapple with within myself because it's this knowledge and practice that I think should have more accessibility for everybody, but then also me choosing to make a career out of it and make a living because I need to survive in this capitalistic world. It's been a really great opportunity to kind of look at my relationship with that part, the capitalistic part, and money and finances, and I guess where I come to terms with it is it's an exchange of energy, and that's a medium. And what I get to do having a business is still try to make it as accessible as possible for people. Because I think that herbalism shouldn't be owned by anybody, right? It's like an ancient practice that some people have become disconnected from, and other people are trying to reconnect people with. But we also live in this modern world, and we need money to survive and be part of the society. So, it's something that I think I work with constantly.
That's all we can ask, And I think what you're doing in this capitalistic society is really cool. Just looking around, like you've got plants growing in a store, and like you got a drawer full of dirt and plants and stuff like that. And it's like I don't know. I think it's super cool, and you're kind of like this gateway for maybe like quasi normal people just walking by your shop. Oh, this looks cool, you know. So, but yeah, great answer. Like I said, we do the hard hitting questions here at the Herbalist Hour. So so kind of going back in time, do you have any memories of one of the first plants you remember having a relationship with it, or was it the lemon balm?
I think the lemon balm was my first intentional relationship with the plants. Fast forward, yarrow is my gateway into diving in with Hannah Jordan, actually. Okay. And then going back, rose is probably the first plant I really connected with in my great-grandma's garden. She just had a ton of roses, and I just remember just being out there.
That's so cool.
That's all I wanted to do.
So you actually got to hang out with your great-grandma then?
Yeah, on both sides. My great-grandparents on both sides.
That's so sweet. Yeah, just their relationship with nature, I just love it, that must have been really special. And so it was the cultivated rose.
Yeah, it was cultivated rose.
Later on, did you have any sort of relationship with, say, the wild rose that grows around here? Was that the Nootka rose?
Yes, that's one of my favorite plants.
Okay.
Yeah, and my favorite things to harvest. They're so tiny. Yeah, Nootka rose and then wood rose, and there's invasive ones, but they're all just, they're like, the biggest one I've found is maybe that big with 5 petals. Okay. And so they kind of not force you, but invite you to slow down while you're harvesting, because you can't just like take some shears or which I don't want to do anyways. Right, but if people go out and harvest rose without knowing how to harvest in a mindful way, they kind of have to. Because if you don't, you'll get stuck by the thorns, which is unpleasant. Right. So, not the best. Yeah. And I think that their aroma is the best.
Oh, it's so nice.
There's
so lovely.
like it.
Yeah. So I know, or I read that this month is one of your themes for the shop is I want to say skin and healthcare.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you got a
Yeah.
little display over here.
Yeah.
I kind of was curious if you had any recommendations. That kind of makes me think of self-care.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of wondering if you have any, if you would like to share any of your self-care routine or anything related to, say, the skin and healthcare theme going on here.
Yeah. This time of year, when I remember to do these things, I really like to ground barefoot outside. I kind of start the morning off with that, and then tea is just an everyday, all day kind of practice for me. And really connecting with water, so baths or being by water, I think to help balance the excess wind that happens during the springtime, even though it's been incredibly wet outside, it's still like we're all so dry inside and out. Yeah. And then working with herbal oils is another favorite for the skin and hair and just self-care.
I'm still learning my interviewing prowess,
Yeah.
and I was really just trying to transition the rose to like self-care via like say certain body care products.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was curious about that. Like, do you have like any sort of like rose and infused body care situation? Or,
I infuse rose in oil. It's one of my favorite oils to use.
Okay.
Probably daily. And then let's see, I used to make rose bitters.
Oh.
Yeah, with
Wow.
rose and chamomile, and that was really nice for summertime.
Yeah.
But and then tea, actually, put rose in tea. I put rose in a lot of things.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites.
I love it.
Yeah.
You brought up baths, and one of the things I know
Yeah.
Amanda's probably been struggling with the most right now is our RV does not have any sort of bath situation.
No.
And so those are all great suggestions. You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
I started getting really obsessed. I started like doing a lot of self-care stuff recently, and I started creating like a checklist of self-care things to do. And then I created a timer that would go off where I had to do all these things on my self-care checklist. And the checklist started growing exponentially large. And then it became almost like this bizarre chore.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, gotta do it. And then just listening to you talk about it, I'm like, I need to just scale it back, put my feet on the ground, drink a nice cup of tea. It seems ironic to be taking self-care in such a stressful, in that manner. So thank you for reminding me to just put my damn feet on the ground. So
That's, timers. Defeats the purpose.
it does.
I have this much time to do this.
Yeah.
Feel good afterwards.
Then it becomes like I'm rushing through this stuff, and I'm like, that's not the right way. I'm still learning balance, man. I don't know what I'm doing here, but
I don't know if there's ever a point in time where we just learn balance.
No. You're so right. You're so right. But
juggling everything.
well, thank you for the tea. I know one of the talking points we wanted to chat about is intentional wildcrafting. So if you want to let us know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So back to Rose. They invite you to slow down. Since I've noticed since 2020, there's been a lot of the interest in outdoor recreation has increased dramatically. The education part hasn't really followed suit. So when I go out, because I go out and I wild harvest a good portion of the herbs I use in my products, and going out kind of on the outskirts of where I would go into, plants have just been decimated or trash everywhere, and part of having this space now, I feel like, is an opportunity to help educate people on how to harvest plants in a more mindful and intentional way, and kind of bring both the fun experience of being out in the woods with plants, because it's an amazing experience, and then also doing it in a way that allows future people to come out and enjoy it as well, and not just take everything or destroy the forest or.
Yeah.
So actually, when I emailed you, I was out to go get Nettle, which has become very popular, especially this year, seemingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Even my friend Thomas, who's not a huge herbal guy, is like, "You gonna go get some nettles?" So.
Yeah, people know about it.
Yeah.
Actually, my class last night, I taught an herbal class, herbal oils.
Yeah.
No one had been stung by nettle in the class, which was kind of surprising
That
to
is,
me.
right.
Yeah. But,
I'm just remembering my brother getting stung for the first time.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's an initiation.
Yes, totally.
It's like, at least once in your lifetime, But yeah, I mean, I see people at farmers markets just like bags of fresh nettle, and which is great because people could benefit from wild foods.
Totally.
100%. And the education. So when I messaged you, I was out getting nettle, and I just see all these nettle stalks that are about, like 3 feet, 4 feet high, and only the tops are taken off. And so someone that wouldn't know wouldn't think twice about that. But then when you cut nettle at a node, it encourages more growth to happen, because it's like mint. It's not mint, but then it'll just topple over, because then it bushes from the top. So yeah, that's another part of having the apothecary is doing more herb walks and more education on how to approach the wilderness and the natural areas with more intention and respect, I guess.
Yeah. So one of your goals then with the shop is to actually teach classes as well, and you're actually taking people out there in the woods and leading herb walks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I'll be doing the first one next week.
Okay. Would you say a lot of your intentional wildcrafting or ethical wildcrafting knowledge, say, came from Scott Kloos and his school and his teachings? Because I know he wrote a book. I can't recall what it's called, but in there's like a whole section on how to ethically wild harvest.
Yeah,
so.
I love it. It's one of my go-to books.
Okay.
It's actually right there.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get some B-roll of that.
No, actually, Chris Smaka was a huge influence in that, and he was a big proponent on getting out in nature and just spending time with the plants, not even necessarily harvesting them, but spending time with them first.
Totally.
And getting to know them. And there was, he very much taught us, like, you ask permission before you harvest, and with each person it's going to be different, but if it's a yes, like, you'll know.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then don't, so yeah, he was the main influence in how I harvest.
I love that. I love the idea of promoting that you don't even need to harvest the plant to get its. And this is going to be like kind of the woo-woo part, but it's like you really don't necessarily need those constituents per se, but just spending time with the plant or being in nature is sometimes medicine enough.
Yeah. And then that reminds me of something Scott Kloos was saying, is like, you don't need to ingest it. If you've cultivated a relationship with a plant, you can literally just recall the plant and have like, the energy of the plant come, and again, woo-woo, but it's
we're here for the woo-woo.
Very valid.
Yeah. Or like if it's an aromatic plant, like say lemon balm, one of my favorite things to do is just rub its leaf and smell it, and that's like, this makes me happy almost immediately. So any other like ethical wild harvesting tips or tricks that you want to share or that comes to mind?
See, like the first thing is, don't harvest anything you don't know what it is. I know it was like coming out of my mouth like a duh kind of thing to say, but I think it's
important.
To be said.
Yeah, very important.
There's so many ID books.
Yeah.
There's so many great resources out there. Take an herb walk with local herbalists. Like, spend time looking at books and IDing things. Another thing is like, only, I don't know, there's the saying like, only take what you need.
Yeah.
But that can be portrayed in so many ways, I think. So I like to, me personally, I like to make it look like I had never been there in the first place. And that means that I spend a lot longer out there harvesting because I go from patch to patch, and instead of just taking from one patch and calling it a day.
Right. It's like a clear cut.
Yeah, it is a clear cut. Yeah. So, and then I also utilize the United Plant Savers lists, and
Totally.
I'm try to be as mindful as I can and not harvesting anything at risk or finding alternatives.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, United Plant Savers is a great resource as well. Great nonprofit to support and look into more. All right, so I was looking at your Instagram and you wrote something that piqued my interest. And you said, owning a small business is kind of like a continual stepping into the unknown. Sometimes it feels like wandering around in the dark, hoping I won't fall off the cliff. Other times it becomes as natural as breathing, practicing receptivity and pivoting when needed, hopefully with grace. And I was just curious if you had any advice for small herbal business owners.
Oh, advice. Yeah, my whole approach with this from the start, well, since it became Rooted Remedies, because I've tried many different variations of businesses and herbal businesses. And then once I switched to the name Rooted Remedies, it just took off. But my whole approach has just been kind of letting it guide me and seeing where the business wants to go and checking in with my values and my ethics and then making sure it aligns, or making sure I'm living true to those. But yeah, it 100% feels like I'm just like going in the dark and hoping I don't crash. Especially with each stage of growth and getting bigger, and it's like, oh, but this is comfortable over here. So I guess my advice is to listen to your heart and trust yourself and trust that this living thing that you're facilitating is going to do what it's going to do, and you're the facilitator of it. But really like trusting your heart in all of it, because it's like the business side, which can feel really sterile sometimes.
Well, we're recording this on the 17th, and I want to say tomorrow's tax day.
Yes, actually, but today I completely forgot. It's Herbalist Day. So happy Herbalist Day. And and tomorrow's tax day.
Good timing.
Great dichotomy.
Totally.
But it can feel really sterile, and then just so returning to the plants too, or returning to whatever is behind the motivation of the business. Like for me, it's the plants and connecting with the plants and community, and sometimes it's really easy to get lost in the business side of things because I'm one person. And, but continually returning to yourself and returning to what is actually igniting you and your heart and your passion, I think is my one takeaway from all this.
I think that's great advice. In fact, that's pretty similar to what I tell people too. I mean, just kind of follow your heart and follow your gut too. Like, what is your gut telling you to do? You know? And listening to that is a good idea. I also say be patient. Not everything's going to happen overnight. I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at you.
That's a good reminder.
It's not going to happen overnight, and I suspect your journey has been long and winding, and I'm curious what compelled you to move from Portland to Eugene. Pretty similar cities, actually, just Eugene's much smaller.
So I grew up in Portland. I've moved away a few times. Ironically, each time I've moved away, it's been to a desert, and I am not a desert person. So I ended up moving back to Portland, and I don't know, this last time, I love Portland because it has a special place in my heart. but I didn't take advantage of living in a big city. Like, that's not where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And my sister and her wife had already moved down here. And every time I would visit them, my whole system was just like, oh, I can breathe. Like,
Yeah.
okay, this feels great. And then every time I would go back up to Portland, like, I just felt tense.
Yeah.
And they had been trying to convince me to move down here for a while. And I just decided that it was time to leave Portland.
Yeah, the traffic could be kind of crazy up
Oh
there.
my God. It's so nice to leave at 5, like traffic hour here,
Right.
and still get to where you need to go in 20 minutes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love Eugene.
Yeah.
Appleton traffic is even better than Eugene traffic, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about nettle, lemon balm, rose. I'm curious if you have any current favorite plant allies besides those.
Yeah. My number one plant ally is yarrow, which is also my logo for the business.
Oh, yeah.
In a or a mortar pestle. Yeah, and I met yarrow on a cliffside at the coast with Hannah Jordan, and she had us all just take a little nibble and then just sit for a
The
while.
flower or the leaf?
The flower.
Okay.
And it was just this amazing experience of the protector of nettle coming in and basically just telling me that it's okay to just let myself shine and like, this is it for you.
That's so
Like,
cool.
yeah. Yeah. So that's my main ally always, I think.
Do you have it tattooed on you yet?
I do.
How'd I know?
I know
You
this.
yarrow people.
Yeah, it's actually.
See, I didn't know that. It's just, oh, there you go. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
That's a great spot. See,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting a dandelion tattoo, which is kind of like I call it my gateway herb, and it's actually the Herb Rally logo as well. And I'm like, I don't want to get a dandelion
Dandelion
tattoo. So.
people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do
Yeah.
you ever mess with say like the flower essence or anything like that, the yarrow, or?
You know, I never really been drawn to work with flower essences before.
Yeah.
Carry some.
Okay.
But I don't. Yeah, I think sitting with the plants is my equivalent of taking flower essences.
Yeah, no, it's true, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
going back to what we were talking about earlier, you don't need to pick it. You just need to be in that energy.
Yeah.
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 Totally.
So yeah, I think I've maybe taken a flower essence once.
Okay.
So I can't talk about it at
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
I don't know why I bring it up during interviews sometimes. We're
Yeah.
just, I don't really do too many flower essences either, but I just figured I'd ask because, yeah, I like the idea of experiencing the plant in all these different forms. In fact, when I was on the Rosalie de la Foret's podcast, I did a oat straw infusion, oat top extract. What else did I do? Oh, I did Robin Rose Bennett's oat meditation.
Oh.
And then there was oatmeal.
Yes.
And I did all 4 of those every day for 30 days. And I
Oh,
just
wow.
really like the idea of trying like the different physical, metaphysical, everything, and just trying to really feel the oats.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's a great way to get
yeah.
to know a plant.
Totally.
It's like all of the different facets of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You were talking about like the sustainability or sustainable ways to wildcraft and everything like that earlier, and I know you posted recently about nettles and like using every part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever use the seeds in any way, nettle seeds?
I do. I'm personally am pretty sensitive to how stimulating they are. But I've put sometimes I'll put them in. I use them more in a food sense.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll
Yeah.
put them in oatmeal or
Oh, cool.
yogurt and-
That's a good idea.
yeah.
Yeah. I was buying them. Do you carry Oshala Farm here at all? Oshala Farms? Oh, cool. Yeah, I bought their seeds before, and I was like, how do I consume this? So I would just like swish it around in water and then like chug it.
That's a way too. Yeah.
Oatmeal sounds much more delightful.
Yeah, mix it in with some hemp hearts.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
Any current favorite herbalism books or resources that you like to use for learning?
Yeah, like I was saying, my go-to is Scott Kluse's Pacific Northwest medicinal plants.
That sounds right. Yep.
Really love that one.
Yeah.
I love David Hoffman, medical herbalism.
Okay.
So, it's pretty dense.
Yeah, totally.
But it's a great resource. And then, what other ones do I have over there? I also like Rosalie's Alchemy of Herbs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the recipes. That's a really fun one.
Good resource. Very good. Do you plan on turning this Rooted Remedies into like an herb school, or are you just gonna kind of be doing the classes here and there, or do you want to have like an apprenticeship of any sort?
I was actually thinking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I think part of me is starting to, like somewhere back here, starting to think about that, and think that would be a really sweet direction to go in.
Yeah.
But I'm still getting used to teaching just one-off classes, so yeah, we'll see where.
Yeah.
that goes.
So your heart's not necessarily guiding you to do that per se yet, but you could maybe see a path towards that potentially. Okay.
Yeah.
The seed's been planted.
The seed's been planted, yeah. And this space, actually, I've always wanted to open a brick and mortar. But then this last year when Chris passed, I had a lot of time to reflect on how influential he was and how like a lot of my decision making was based on my time studying with him. And having this space and then also having it be an apothecary as well as a classroom, like Vital Ways, is something that was always really sweet and dear to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if I go in that direction eventually.
That's right. I forgot Chris's school also had an herb shop associated with it, didn't it?
Okay. It was all in the same space.
I see. I never actually went up there, and just to acknowledge you brought up Chris passing. I didn't know him super well. I will say this, every time I saw him at an herbalism event, like say the Portland Plant Medicine Gathering or probably Traditional Roots Conference, both in Portland, both at NUNM, for whatever reason, I want to say our tables were almost always right next to each other. And it was just so fun to bullshit with him. He was a super funny guy. The way I put it is he always made you feel as if you were in on a joke with him. Like, I don't know, he would always like have this kind of like smirk and like this smile, and he was super funny, super intelligent, but it just always made me feel as if I was in on a joke with him. Like, you know what I mean? And so I don't know if you had the same experience or not with him, but he was never one of my herbal mentors per se, but he was like my herbalism event buddy, and I definitely was super sad to hear about his passing. So, well, that's cool that you're kind of taking influence from him and continuing the tradition of a brick and mortar here, and then maybe potentially some sort of herb school eventually. But you're teaching all sorts of great classes here. I know you just did like a nettle gnocchi, if I'm saying that correctly.
You are.
A nettle ravioli.
So
lots of the nettle theme going on. Is that upstairs where you do that, or?
So, both spaces are available.
Okay.
Down here, we just moved the middle to the wall, and then we have all this space.
That must be quite the balancing
night.
act to move all this.
Yeah. Well, with those classes, I had help.
Gotcha.
Which is great. Last night I didn't, and it was a balancing act. But so both spaces are available. This next weekend, I think this next week I'm doing a DIY cleaning supply, but they're using upstairs for like smaller, more intimate classes.
Sweet. Well, what a cool resource for the community. Can you kind of maybe do one more rundown of what this place is and what's the address? I didn't mention that yet.
Yeah, it's 271 West 8th Avenue.
Okay.
It's right by the Wow Hall.
Okay, there you go.
That's what I tell people. They're like, oh yeah, I know.
Have you been to the Wow Hall yet?
I have not.
Okay. It's a fun, intimate venue. I haven't been there in years, but I definitely grew up going there, and it's a nice spot. I'm glad to see it's still around and doing its thing.
I don't know if this is true, but I think I heard it's one of the oldest venues here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do a let's get deep question. Can you grab that deck for me?
Oh.
You didn't know this was coming, did you? So we reached the random part of the show, and what this is here is called Let's Get Deep Friends Edition. And what we're going to do here is we're going to draw a random card, and basically it's just a question, and we're just going to get to know Kassaundra a little better.
Cool.
Here we go. Oh. What was your favorite cartoon or show as a young kid growing up?
Oh, this is good. Probably Magic School Bus.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, I loved Miss Frizzle.
I was gonna
and,
say,
like,
yeah.
all of the adventures going and like diving into human bodies and plants.
I love the digestive system episode.
Yeah,
that's
so
a good
cool.
one.
Yeah, the watermelon seed. After I watched that, I was terrified to swallow watermelon seeds. So it's like, I want it growing inside me.
Pretty sure they're kind of nutritious, but yeah.
I think that they are. Yeah, they will not sprout inside your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a favorite.
Amanda, don't you love that show too?
That was a good, yeah.
Yeah. Weren't you Miss Frizz for Halloween? No? Okay.
I've definitely been Miss Frizzle for Halloween.
You just have the hair. That's
Yeah. Yes.
good answer. So the game is I have to answer it too, and for whatever reason, the first one coming to mind is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, another good one.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite turtle?
I don't think I did have a favorite turtle.
It just kind of, in some ways, like shows the personality, perhaps, of a person. Like my brother was Donatello because he was really into science and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My other brother was Michelangelo because he was a party dude.
Nice.
And I was Raphael, and he's kind of like the emo one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'd probably be the more Donatello.
Okay. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, we usually like to end these interviews with what's your favorite part of being an herbalist and what's your big why that keeps you learning and growing?
Yeah. Ooh, these are all really great questions.
Thank you very much.
Why do I love being an herbalist?
You know what? Actually, before you say that, I can't take full credit.
Okay.
That question specifically was given by an Herb Rally audience member.
Oh, cool.
So we compiled a bunch of our favorite Ask an Herbalist questions, and so I can't take credit for that
I've
one.
listened to those.
That's sweet. Yeah, that's a great. That Jim McDonald has 3.5 hour episode where he just answers 80 something questions. But anyways, props to the Herb Rally audience for that last final question.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly who it was, but yes. So one more time. What's your favorite part about being an herbalist, and what's your big why that keeps you learning and growing?
Yeah. You know, there's something really magical when people gather to connect over plants, like connect with each other because of plants. And I think that that's a big part of why I love herbalism, other than just like I love being out in nature and that's its own thing, but connecting with other humans because of plants it's just so magical. Like the community and then people who get drawn to the community and to plants. I've never met anyone who isn't just an amazing human being and just full of this giving, delightful energy. Yeah, I think that's one of my favorites.
That might be one of my favorite answers to that question. Yeah, it really, you succinctly said it's the plants and the people and the relationship between the two. I love that.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. The herbal community is full of just amazing people, and some of my fondest memories, honestly, are being in herb school. Like out there in the old growth forest in the Columbine School or Arctos in Portland, and just hanging out with a bunch of people, like looking at flowers through loops. You know?
Just standing there looking.
It's a wonderful feeling. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
so.
It has that like childlike wonder.
Totally.
And I think before we started rolling, I went to school for a preschool teacher.
That's right.
And I think that that's how it like bridges, like that childlike wonder permeates herbalism.
That was going to be the last question, but now I have to ask, do you have any ways that you like to introduce children to herbalism? Do you still kind of work in that realm at all, or?
Not so much right now.
Yeah.
That was one of the routes I experimented with is herbalism directed at kids, but then there was the marketing toward parents, which was strange, and I didn't know how to navigate that.
Yeah.
But I did do a few herb walks with kids up in Portland, and it's so fun, and because everything is like magic to them, and new and wonderful and wondrous, and it's just amazing. So
I've never taught a class before, but I suspect if I do, I'd like to just teach kids because they're like a lot more of an accepting audience. I think it'd be really fun to go out in the woods and teach kids, like take them on a plant walk or something. So
they are, and everything you say is so cool.
Yeah.
So
and they can't question your material either.
They can't. They're like, what? And then what keeps me going is that. Yeah, I love that I get to have the opportunity to facilitate those worlds of the plant and the humans, and they've made such a huge impact in my life, and being able to share that with others is what keeps me going. And also like the little moments of customers coming back and being like, I just wanted to stop by and let you know that your elderberry syrup just like saved me from a cold, or I had someone come in, they're going through chemo, and they take one of the aroma oils with them when they go get radiation, and it just like that also keeps me going.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff right there. Yeah, I love it.
The impact the plants are having, and I get to facilitate that. It's amazing.
You got a great job.
Yeah, I think so. I love it.
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining us on the Herbalist Hour. For the audience, check out Rooted Remedies on Instagram. I want to say it's at rootedremedies.co. And then rootedremedies.com. .co. That makes it easy. Okay. I was 0 for 2, but check out Rooted Remedies, and thanks y'all for watching, and thanks again, Kassaundra, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.